May 13th, Friday the 13th, but we are lucky enough today to have Shannon Casey join us from Legacy Home Group. We're going to be talking to her for Coffee with a Capper. Bradley Kelly from Andy Mac Home Mortgage is also here, and we're going to get started immediately. Welcome, Shannon, and you're about to be riveted by all the math from our dear friend Bradley. Brad, bring us up to speed. What's the latest with all the fun stuff, with all the numbers and all the changes?
It's a lot of the. I feel like I'm a broken record on some levels. It's a lot of the same stuff. Rates continue to climb. There's days that they're up. There's days that they're down. But as a general trend, they're up. And it goes yet again. Back to the, if you've pumped gas into your car lately, you know what gas prices are out there, and it's they're continuing. Inflation is still an issue, so all the practices of the Feds are still in play. They updated rates. They went up by a half in the last meeting, and led the expectations for the next meeting to also do the same, to go up another half in the next meeting. So they're trying to get ahead of it. The big thing I'll tell you with this approach is, if you think about like kind of a pendulum, it swings back and forth. Well, the pendulum's swinging one way, and they're trying to get it to slow it down so it doesn't swing too far. But it's never a perfect practice where you can always get it to stop in the middle. So they play with Fed rates, and it swings one way, and then it goes back the other, and it's kind of a constant game as far as that's concerned. Just be aware that's happening. I mean, it's something, yet again, we need to happen. It's part of the economy that we live in our world, and it happens. This is normal stuff. The advantage of it, yet again, I think we've talked about this recently, is you're starting to see more program options open up out there. You're starting to see the investors that are willing to put other products out there come back into the game, because now they can get more money for their money when it comes to interest rates. And you're starting to see a lot of diversity as far as program options are concerned. So keep that in mind with your people that are investors and things of that nature, that there's more potential out there.
Yeah. What is, just to clarify this for people, when you guys work with somebody and you get them their rate and it's locked, how long does that for most of your clients, how long does that stay locked?
So basically, rate locks go in 15-day increments. So 15, 30, 45, 60. The longer the lock, the higher the rate. So, we do have some extended locks options, that go out a long ways. As a general trend, a typical rate lock, it gets painful over 60 days. Let's put it that way. You go over a 60-day lock, you're starting to look into, significantly higher rates and potentially points that you have to pay out of pocket. If you do the extended locks, you're paying for something like that up front a lot of times, where you have to write a check to lock it in for 6 months or something like that. So,
well, the reason I ask is because a conversation with an agent might have even been yesterday at Red Day, but I was with you, so I would have sent them to you. So it must have been in the last week or so. The individual had a client who they were obviously locked at a certain rate. And obviously that evaporated. Like, they just went outside that window and they go to get their numbers again, and everything changed.
Yeah.
So I guess just the mindset that if you do have somebody and they're locked at a good rate, which is whatever they can get today, to be expedient in getting them into a house if that's truly what they want to do, because they're going to see the number change on their new agreement, and they're going to be horrified and be like, oh, I mean, that could be an oh, forget it moment, right?
Oh yeah. So I mean, prime example is, I actually have a deal, went under agreement in January, was supposed to close in February. Sorry, there was a baby walking by, and we're still not closed. So client was locked in. We've extended, several times. We're kind of at the end of the line at this point in time, where we have one extension left for this client, because a lot of what you're starting to see out there is a lot of the practices of just having two extensions for a rate lock are back.
Yep.
And so this client's kind of at the end of the line. They're locked in at 3875. So they're they're probably looking at mid to upper fives at this point in time, and
Yeah.
they keep being like, oh, can we just extend for 10 days? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, in we can do that, but like this rate's gone,
Yeah, yeah,
after that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
She died in the
this
fire.
is
Yeah.
this is now, 2 points higher than where you are
Mm.
now in theory. And they were like, oh, but I can always buy down the rate. I'm like, okay, so an extra 5 days is going to cost you, like a few $100s.
Hmm.
To buy down the rate to 3875 is going to cost you like $20,000. Like that's the difference we're looking at in
Mm.
this. And they were like, oh, and I was like, yeah. So like that's yeah, it's a definitely a thing. And to be honest with you, based on where a lot of the economists see things going, like buying down rate at this point in time isn't necessarily a great plan anyways, because there's a lot of suggestions that a couple of years from now we're going to be back in a market where rates are going to start coming down again.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, the pendulum's swinging one way right now and they're trying to stop it, but it's going to swing back the other way, in the not too distant future. So
Hmm.
keep that in mind. And
Awesome.
actually, while let me interrupt you real quick while you mentioned Red Day. Yeah, I want to thank everybody that came out yesterday. Red Day was awesome. I know I was part of the crew that went and kind of signed us up for what we ended up doing, and I will take some blame on one of the projects that we didn't get finished. That I think bit off more than I realized I bit off with that. But everybody was awesome yesterday. We crushed it, and I really appreciate it. And what is it? It's May 11th next year, right, Timmy?
May 11th, 2023. Circle your calendars. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, put it on the calendar. I mean, it's a great day. You get to be with people. People get to see you. You do things that we wouldn't normally do. Like I'm in a lot of pain today because I sit at this desk. I don't go out and like do manual
You
stuff. I
play
do at
hockey
home.
every other night. But anyway, keep going. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a great day. So circle it in your calendar. It's definitely something you don't want to miss next year. So
So I do have to pick on Brad a little bit. We joke at the top of this conversation once a month when we do Coffee with a Capper that Brad has been sponsoring Coffee with a Capper during COVID, and we're digital, and he hasn't gotten anybody coffee. So then we get to Red Day yesterday, and there's an Aroma Joe's truck. So I'm sure all the agents are like, "Oh, Brad finally did the coffee." Nope,
no.
that was Dave Garvey. Yeah, but anyway, so I do know though because Brad's right down the hallway, and I've seen him in the wild today. You can't see him. He's in a polo. He's in a company labeled polo shirt. He is in shorts and flip flops. And it's a Friday. And if I know Brad Kelly, that means his feet are going to be on a deck in Portsmouth having a cocktail and a lobster roll in about an hour. Maybe
Yeah.
less than that. I don't know. Hopefully you'll stay for the whole thing, Brad. Hopefully you'll
Yeah,
stay for the whole
definitely.
thing. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. Awesome.
All right.
And if you need Brad's help, you need Brad's team. Always here to help. Diane is in Wolfboro.
Yeah, North
There's
Conway.
what's that?
She covers Wolfboro and North Conway.
And North
for us.
Conway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. And Brad and the rest of the team down here in Portsmouth.
Or Meredith.
Give out the other number. What's the? I always give out your cell phone. There is another number. Yes.
Yeah, it all goes to my cell phone.
603
anyways. Yeah.
396 3198. You can get a hold of Brad. We always stress, and when you do talk to Brad and introduce yourself to Brad, if you've never used Brad, just to find out, because clients say this all the time, Brad, well, I'm going to shop my rates. Well, if your credit sucks, your credit sucks. I mean, let's just have that honest conversation. Your number is your number. What's going to change between individuals is the products they can help you with. So make sure you do find out for Brad what he and his team can do for you, and just have local lenders at the ready.
To me, I mean, my world, I've been here for 17 plus years. My
Mhm.
world's about service. Like we may not be the cheapest internet rate you can find out there, but, and I'm going to 100% give this credit to my team. My name's attached to it, but I was just named like it was some service level award that like only 3 people in all of AnnieMac received. My team is amazing. They crush it. We make sure you get to closing on time, that that you get through the process and you're happy and things of that nature. So definitely love to work with you and your clients. And hopefully get everything smooth and clean, because if anybody's out there right now that knows, I mean, mortgages as a general trend, there's always something that comes up. You might be the best buyer on the planet, and there might be something that comes up with the appraisal. So you need somebody local. If it's not us, you should be using somebody else that ultimately is making sure your stuff goes smoothly, because that's the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. The Shannon Casey. How are you, my dear?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
We are well. We're glad that you're here. We've had you on the books for a couple of months, and then like you reached out to me last month. You're like, this month? I'm like, it was this month, but I forgot. So now it's next month. So we have you in May, which is fine. All the beauty is blooming, and well, see, if you're keeping track, Brad and I do the very best we can to make sure that somebody on camera is worth joining the conversation for. Yeah, because Brad and I now we're sunbeaten a little bit, and we're just not that attractive. So we have to bring on good-looking people to talk to hold everyone's attention. So we're glad you could join us. First and foremost, Legacy Home Group, you guys are all over the lake, obviously dominating your little shire that you guys just grabbed a building in, which is super cool. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about just get me to this point. Where did it all start for you? Like, let's start with high school. Like, I ask everybody the question, give me my high school graduation to this conversation. Like, walk me through all the things that got you to the point where you're like, real estate, I'm going to give that a shot. Talk to me.
Okay, so I would say like high school, I was always friends with everyone, all different types of people. I didn't really have like a clique. So I think that's an advantage now because I know so many people. I went to Plymouth State right out of Belmont High School, and I always worked from the time that I would start making my own money. I had like 3 jobs. I remember when I was 17, my dad looked at my tax return. He's like, you have 3 W-2s. And I'm like, yeah. So I just liked, earning my own money. I always waitressed. Sometimes I waitressed in the morning and at night at 2 different restaurants. And I loved having aprons full of cash. Always saved my money. So I guess I was kind of a workaholic as soon as I could start making my own money. And I paid my way through college. I did take out loans, but I ended up taking a little bit of a pause because I was paying my own way through school and didn't entirely know what I wanted to do. I did learn a lot of people skills in hospitality growing up in the Lakes region, mom and pop restaurants, learning how to treat people, learning how they wanted to be treated. So I feel like I grew up very quickly learning people skills in the hospitality industry. And then when I got a little bit older, I wanted to complete my degree. So I went to night school while I worked. I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in business administration from Franklin Pierce in 2010, finally, like a 10-year plan. But the good news is when I graduated, I had no student loans because I paid as I went. So that was good. I worked at Big Cat Coffees. It was actually my boyfriend at the time's business. I ended up being the CFO of that company for about 7 years. And that's when I learned e-commerce, the front side, the back side, being in business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was very exciting. We were one of the first Keurig distributors before K-Cups were anywhere. So it was kind of like a rocket ship to the moon business where we were growing at like 200%. So that was super exciting. And then that business started to level off a little bit. It was still very good, but I ended up ending that relationship with my ex-boyfriend. So I was like, I want to do something different. What do I want to do? And I knew a realtor, and he said, you would make a great realtor. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. So I got my license. I did work part-time at Big Cat Coffees my first year in real estate until I got my feet on the ground. And things just kind of took off from there. I was really busy right away, and it was kind of like an accelerated learning. I did a lot of transactions and met a lot of people, and it's been great.
So the correlation between, I think, anybody in the hospitality industry and selling homes, it just makes sense. I said to somebody the other day, because I always say to you guys when we're talking about when we do the profit share class, which will be next Friday, I either teach the machination of profit share or I interview somebody who's crushing profit share. And we were on one of the months where we were teaching it, and I always say to you guys, like, thinking about who you could be in conversation with to attract them to real estate, because none of us were like, you just told your story. People know my story. None of us were like in kindergarten, like, I'm going to be a realtor, you know? And even Nate, who had it in his lineage, like his I think his grandfather was in real estate. He didn't even come out of like school and say, I'm going to do that. He was in a couple of other sales things before he came this way. So I always joke about when you're thinking about profit share, like that barista that's selling you the $17 latte. It's just customer service with more expensive bagels and coffees, right? Like if you can really, draw that line between the two. So for you, why did it come so easy? And I shouldn't say easy. Why did it make sense? Like you just started doing real estate and it made sense to you. Like what clicked for you quickest?
I think it's having the ability to talk to all different types of people and be able to relate to all different types of people. Just being really friendly and genuine in my everyday life for my whole life. People just naturally trust me and want to, hear what I have to say. And then having the business background, I kind of like talk the talk and walk the walk. Like some people will be like, oh, you're so pretty. Like people might want to deal with you. And it's like, it's all up here and my brains are my secret weapon. And I've been in so many different situations. I mean, the great thing about real estate is you learn all the time, every day, right? But I've definitely learned enough where I can answer whatever questions anybody's going to throw at me. And I love that I'm at the point where it's like, oh, my dad wants to ask you some questions. Can he call you? Awesome. Yes, I can take all the dad questions. And usually people are very impressed after the conversation and, I make them feel better about it. So I think it's just having the knowledge, and experience really to put people at ease. And obviously if I don't have the answer to the question, I get it.
So if somebody's, watching us right now and they're quote unquote meeting you for the first time, talk about and I know all of us are like, oh, I serve the whole planet, Tim, but like, what is truly your service area? Like your jam is from south to north to west. Like, what are you doing? Because obviously you can go east, but you get wet, right? So, I mean, you can only cover so much of the lake on foot, and then it gets challenging. Are you doing boat showings?
I definitely can. I have a great captain. But so I kind of focus more on people, and most of my business comes from word of mouth referrals, past clients. So for me, I kind of end up in places like I sold 4 in Hillsborough last year because I have a friend in Hillsborough and that's just what happened. So I kind of go everywhere. I've got a listing in Antrim. I've got a listing in Ware coming on Monday. So, in this market, it's kind of like, I'll take a listing on the moon. I try to go too far, but also in this market, if you play your cards right, you are going to the house maybe 4 or 5 times. And you can listen to a podcast in the car and, make the best use of your time that way. So trying to stay more in central New Hampshire. But, I like zipping down to Manchester for buyers. I mean, you can show 20 houses in 35 minutes down there because everything's so close and everything's on lockbox. So different areas definitely have different advantages. I was never really like a big driver before, and now I kind of like it now that I've kind of adventured all over the state. I like going to different places, and it's kind of cool being on this random back road and being like, I've been here before. I know where I am. So I do go further than most, but usually it's for listings.
Perfect. So, and you've been licensed how many years now?
Since 2018.
2018. Okay. And you added, when did you go, you did add commercial. When did you do that?
Yes. Yep. So I got my salesperson's license in 2018. I got my broker's license in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, I got into commercial. And it was really just because I had those types of needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like to do everything. And I don't like anyone to tell me I can't do something. And I like learning.
Sure.
So I certainly would never take on anything that was out of my scope. I would always ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday, while I was at the gym, I got a call from someone who wants to sell a $3 million commercial property. So being able to say, yes, I can help you is a really great thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's been the with your journey? Because when you came into real estate, we were not your first stop. There were some other brokerages along the way. So, what was your biggest aha when you got here? Like, what differentiated us from others for you?
So, when I first got licensed, I went to Bean Group just because that was where my mentor was at.
Mm-hmm.
We did come to KW, but it was a little bit of a different situation. At that time, like when you look at my MLS history, I did not get credit for my sales for the first couple of years I was in business. And then eventually I got half credit. So I look at my personal records, it looks like I've served about 218 families, like so far, career wide.
Yeah.
But if you look at MLS, it's a bit less because of that.
Yeah.
When I first came to KW, I was still with that mentor, and I was not encouraged to take advantage of any of the learning opportunities at KW. It was almost like I was kind of like keeping baby in the corner. So I was kind of in this little room that I couldn't get out of. Now that I'm back at KW, and with Legacy, I am taking advantage of everything, and it's amazing because I do love learning, and to be able to be on the broker calls 3 times a week and learn from Jason and learn from Jen and ask questions, it's just amazing, and that's what I love. I just love, even if I'm not asking questions on those calls, listening and hearing what the situations are that are happening, what are the newest solutions, what are the challenges, what are people doing, because that's just what I love. I love being challenged, and I love learning, and having access to all of those great people all the time is probably the best part of it.
Yeah, shameless plug. You just brought it up. Back to Basics with the Brokers is at 1:00 on Killer TV today. So when you're so now that you're back, you're plugged in. You've had a phenomenal, I don't know, let's just say the phenomenal last week, because your numbers have been really great. You've really been leaning into education, making sure that you have all the tools you need to move forward. And then the decision for you to join Legacy, what was important about what separated them from others that you said, I want to go play with those girls? Because I know there's Ruben, and there's like 2 guys, 2, maybe 3. I think it's only 2.
2.
Yeah, 2. You let 2 guys in. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So go ahead. Tell me more about that.
So when I wanted to make a change, I was kind of nervous, obviously, because in industry, you can't really talk to a lot of people because word gets back to everyone. So I kind of kept it to myself for maybe 6 months and just started looking around. And then I realized it's not, oh God, where am I going to go? It's, I can go anywhere I want. What do I want to do? So I made a list on a white notepad of every brokerage, every agent I respected, every team that I thought was cool. And I just looked at the list and I was like, who's doing every single thing right? And at the end of the day, it was like Legacy has the best marketing. They do everything. They're in the best area. They're constantly putting out content that is relevant, and they're doing it right, and they're doing it consistently. So I put a big circle around Legacy Home Group, and it was like, I'm either going to be an independent agent at KW, or I'm going to ask Legacy. if I can come work with them. And that was the only option. And my only phone call was to Jeff D'Angelo, and my second phone call was to Kara Chase, and that was it, because I had made that decision, that you guys were the best, and I felt supported and safe, and that's where I wanted to be.
That's awesome. So and I think a lot of people think about, well, so you join a team and every group runs differently. Every team runs their house differently. But there can be the mindset, okay, so Shannon Casey, part of Legacy Home Group, she's got, back to the room that you were kept in a past life, right? Baby in the corner. So the freedom you have there, and the fact that you guys are all entrepreneurs under this brand, what's been the biggest piece of leverage for you as part of the group, and how has that shown up in your business? Because I think people can feel maybe like, okay, I'm going to go be part of this team. Now I've got my marching orders or whatever. And I think ultimately, if people think about it, I think there's a standard that you guys are all building together, that as long as everybody upholds that, and I'll say this for Jason and JV, you do everything within the parameters of the law. Just go be you, right? So that there's a freedom in being with a group of people that are like-minded. And I actually want to throw that word out. I heard most recently, and somebody was using this, it's like-hearted. Because like-minded means that we all have the same goals, and we don't, right? Like-hearted is the way in which we want to get to those goals, right? And I think that's what I see when I look at the Legacy Home Group. So for you, what kind of leverage has it created for you?
It has created so much freedom for me, because really, the sky's the limit. And there, it's like, you tell us what you want to do, and we're going to support you. What do you have going on? What do you need to reach your goals? Anything that you want to do, you can do. And the support is incredible. And it's just absolutely everyone cheering everybody else on, like, no matter what. And it's just super awesome. Dealing and walking into a room with all of those people every Monday. Everyone is so focused on their goals. Everyone has stuff going on. It's always exciting. There's always something to do. And really, the tools that they have between transaction coordinating and marketing and, 3 office assistants and anything you could possibly need, you really can take your time and use it wisely and sell, and, just have the freedom to do 20 transactions at one time and have it feel effortless, because everyone is working to support you, and they have a very systematic way of how they do things, which I love. There's never a question. As long as you're operating in the timelines, everyone else is executing for you in the correct timelines. Yeah,
Kate and the operations team is pretty phenomenal. And I believe it was just last month I was at Meredith for like a building a building wide mastermind, and Carol was there, Megan was there, and one of the newest girls on the operations team. And what's her name?
Christina or Brittany?
Sure. I'm pretty sure it was Christina. And the funniest thing is, Kara was so excited to tell me. She goes, "Guess where she worked? Guess where she worked before she worked for us? She used to work at Kohl's," which she loved. Yep. Like, she used to work at Kohl's folding T-shirts, and now she's working with Keller Williams, which is really cool. So, also the Monday meetings, bone of contention, because I will meet with you guys usually once a month. And I jump in on a Monday meeting to meet with you guys, but it's digital. And I do believe it is Kat from the commercial team within Legacy makes baked goods on a regular basis. Every Monday there's something, and it's annoying that it's digital that I meet with you guys. So I'm never going to time it perfectly to be up there for a Monday. But what was Monday's? Was it pound cake? Was it muffins? Is she making handmade donuts? What's happening?
So Monday, I believe, was a blueberry cake, like a bundt cake, which is very good.
Stop it.
Yep. And yesterday, for Red Day, we all met at our new office
Yeah,
location.
yeah,
We all had our legacy attire on, and we went all over downtown picking up trash
yeah.
and talking to all of local people. And she made coffee cake yesterday. So it's not even just Mondays. It's like
Oh, it's just, yeah,
anytime I think
random baked
we're
goods.
there,
Right.
there's baked goods.
Well, I can see this. This is like a Joanna Gaines thing. Like you guys eventually are going to just be like legacy downtown. There's going to be a bakery. There'll be baristas. Like that building's big enough. You could pull all that off inside, I think. Could you not?
Well, we don't need to because Ruben
Well, Brad and I want you to do it. It's not about your needs. We
yeah, no,
want
because
baked goods.
because we have Wayfair right down the street.
I forgot about that. Of course you
You
do.
know,
Yes.
they're there for us, and everything's right in walking distance, which is awesome. The gym is right there, so it's super accessible, and we know all the local business owners, and everybody's super excited to have us.
Yeah, talk to me about the power of the group of you now, because you've got such great roots. I mean, you grew up right in that area, as did Kara, and I know Corlin, Tracy. Like a lot of you grew up on that side of the lake. That being said, and you spoke to this earlier about how it's a obviously anytime. I don't care if you're on the same team, even on the same team, you're still in co-opetition, right? I feel like everybody at KWCLM is in co-opetition because you're all working for the same listings, but ultimately at some point we have to sort of stand back and be like, oh, she got it, now we have to support her in that, right? So what's the power of all of you guys working together? And it must be mind-boggling for people to realize, especially when the press of the building getting purchased and the fact that you guys now really are, putting your flag in the ground right in downtown Laconia. How will that benefit your business and just the visibility of you guys? Like what is most exciting for you guys, and what are the plans moving forward?
So I think that it's a really an iconic spot because it was Sneakers Jewelry for so long.
Yeah.
So we know that Kara and Corey do feel some pressure in that department because it's such an iconic building.
Yep.
But already the improvements that they've done, it looks stunning. We're going to get a lot of attention there. We already are. And it's just wonderful because where we are now, there's no room for us all to work together. Like we have outgrown the table.
The table's not big enough. Yes, correct.
And this new office has so many different areas that, you could have 5, 6, 7 of us in there on our phones, walking around, and we can all work together, but separately. And have the space to do that. So it's just amazing. I think that we're going to deal with the pressure just fine because we are already exceeding expectations on every level. And this is just kind of like the final stop, just to have a home base and where people can come and drop in every day and somebody's going to be there and there's just going to be tons of activity. It's just very exciting to have that kind of energy all the time around you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for you, I think, and you were with us before COVID, and then obviously during COVID, which feels like it's been 19 years, but I don't know, we're 26 months now, whatever the bubble since it started. For you, what was the difference between, I guess, since you got here, when COVID hit, what your mindset change was about what the business was going to look like, what actually happened, and what do you think you sharpened the most? Like what arrow in your quiver became your most powerful during COVID that you would not be like, oh, next time there's a pandemic, I'll pull that out again. You're using this now. Maybe the skill that you built the most while in COVID.
I just worked really. 2020 was my biggest year ever. Ever. And I just worked really hard through it. And I like a tough market because it separates the pretenders from the contenders and all of that. So I just work hard all the time. It doesn't matter the market. I would say my goals shifted a little bit. Like when we were goal planning, I would be like, okay, well, if I could get 2 listings a month and pepper in 2 buyers, like I'd be happy with that. And now the way the buyer market is just so competitive and so hard, it's like, no, I need to try to get 4 listings signed a month. That's going to be the strategy. So I think I shifted where I spent some of my time, and I did start to get a lot more listings. And I just remember I had a shift where I was talking with somebody and I was trying to gain their listing. And I just said, I'm a listing agent. I list a lot of properties. I can do this for you. And it just flowed out of my mouth. And I'd never said that before. And I left and I'm like, I got the listing. And I'm like, yeah, I am a listing agent. Here we go. And so far, that's really worked for me and has just helped me with my confidence level, which I think is a big part of it too.
So growing up locally, and you and I had talked a few weeks ago, you realized like you'd travel the country and you realize we're in a really good part of the country. Like we are in vacation land, right? And obviously there's a sign in Wolfboro, America's oldest summer resort and all that kind of stuff. Like the lake is a pretty special place. And with your connection, because you went to Belmont High and you went to college locally and you've stayed local, how many of those old relationships that you sort of had to go back and, maybe nurture again have become transactional with you again? Like people that you never thought you'd see again, but they're local and they found out that you're doing real estate and you've been able to reconnect and help them. And how special is that for you?
Yeah, it's awesome. Tons and tons. Lots of people I went to high school with, a lot of people that I'm friends on Facebook with that they don't necessarily even interact with me. All of a sudden I'll get a message like, hey, I got to sell my dad's house. Can you help me? Somebody that I didn't even know was watching. I have great relationships with a lot of tradespeople, builders, people, different types of tradesmen, and that is a huge source of referral as well. And people that I worked for, people from the restaurant industry. I mean, when I'm in Meredith getting gas, I see somebody, I remember what they ate for breakfast every day 20 years ago, and I say hi to them. And I say, oh, yeah, you got oatmeal, oatmeal with raisins every day and rye toast. And they're like, yes, I did.
You got extra bacon every day. I can't believe you're not dead. No, you never say that. That'd be rude.
So I have a really good memory. And I talk to people all the time in my own community, and I've always been that way. So a lot of times when I'm out in public, I see people that I haven't seen in 10 or 15 or 20 years, and they remember me, and it turns into a great thing.
When you're thinking about what's next, I guess I'll just ask you, like, what do you think for the industry? Because there's a lot of change going on within real estate, and for yourself, like what do you want to see for yourself in like the next 12 months and in a year from now, if we're reconnecting and you're like, yep, nailed all this is on my target?
Yep. So I have very clear goals, thanks to you, meeting with you once a month. And I never was into checking stats. I never did that before. I never really checked in with my goals except for like once a year. And now I am constantly monitoring, where I'm at, so I know where I want to go. And I would just say increase my price point. Keep doing what I'm doing. I mean, I think 20 million is a great goal. Just kind of increasing my price point, helping families. For me, I mean, money's always secondary, and it's just about helping the people and creating a lifestyle that works for me. And I keep my cost of living extremely low. So it's awesome. So I'm in a very great position where it's like low pressure in that way, but it's a high pressure job. So just kind of building a nest egg and kind of just staying put and helping as many people as I can.
So what was to date, what's your biggest transaction? What's your biggest volume?
It was like 900,000.
Okay. Okay. And what's the one that what was the one that was like, I don't know if it even matters if it was most challenging, the one you're most proud of? And I guarantee it was not the $900,000 one. What's the one you're most proud of?
After helping 218 people, it's like hard to pull one particular thing.
Yep.
But I would say I've helped several people that were maybe on the verge of foreclosure. And able to sell their house and get them to not have a foreclosure and get them to a better place.
Yeah.
Situations like that, maybe a smaller level VHS, VA,
yeah,
or
those beta deals, they're a pain in the ass. They won't last though, don't worry.
yeah, buyer that was like on the cusp of even getting a house and making that happen for them. Those are obviously always rewarding. The people at the smaller price points are definitely always more challenging, but in the end, very rewarding. So I'd say it's a mix for me. But I just love helping people. It doesn't matter what price level. As an example, I took a $100,000 land listing with a 25% referral on it. You know, why not? So I was setting up the sign for that on the side of the road, and some guys came by in a Alton Town Grader truck. And they're just stopped, and I was like, oh, do you want to buy this? And we had a whole conversation. And then the guy driving the truck's like, well, I have a log cabin in New Durham and I need to sell it. I already built another house. I had an agent come out. I didn't really like his number. And I was like, well, what are you doing tomorrow? I'd love to come by and check it out. So that closes on Monday. Yeah. So I would say the things I love the most are I always get in these situations where I meet somebody totally randomly. It's all about timing. Yeah. It's not even really luck. It just flows. And I think like those full circle moments where I'm like, if I did not leave Portsmouth at this time and be standing on the road at this time, I would have never met this person. And I've met a lot of people like that just randomly in weird places, and it's all worked out.
Yeah, it's not knowing who the wealth determiner is going to be, right? And for that moment, it was because you took that listing for that house, right? And that put you there at the time. Those guys were driving by. You get the next deal. You get the next deal. That's interesting. So of the 218, I love that you have that number off the top of your heart. That's awesome. Who was patient zero? Who was the first person you ever worked with?
So my first buyer was a buyer through a referral company. So there was a referral attached to that, and she bought a little lake home in Ossipee. She got it at a good price. She loved it, but then she sold it and she called me. And so not only was it my first buy, but it turned into a sale, which was great. And then my first listing was a large home in Franklin. And I just remember being totally petrified, being in the basement, like looking at all the things and not really being that confident in what they were. And the buyer agent who I know, she's a very nice person. She was very supportive. Same thing with the list agent on my first buy, Carol Gartland, from Ossipee. She's a super nice lady. They were really good to me. And I think kind of coaxed me through it a little bit. But now I definitely have the confidence, and the more houses that you're in, the more systems that you learn. And now it's like second nature, but I just remember being petrified. Like, I don't know what a water heater is.
What do you think as an industry, and maybe for yourself personally, what's our biggest challenge right now as an industry or as a realtor? What do you think is something that we're all going to have to work with or work through?
Well, obviously buyers, keeping buyers engaged and active, especially, with rates going up and the inventory situation the way it is. But I'm seeing more houses, hit the market. Listings are obviously very competitive, but I just put my best foot forward to explain the value that we offer, that my team offers, that I offer. And I usually get it. And what's interesting to me is usually I never discuss commission rate. Usually. A lot of times, even in this market, it's like an afterthought for them. They're like, oh yeah, and how much do you charge after they've committed? So I think that's good. And maybe our biggest challenge is trying to get our commissions up a little bit. That way it's a little easier,
Sure.
when it comes down to splitting, and, it's a hard job and every transaction's difficult. So we need buyer's agents and we need selling agents. And so it'd be great to get those percentages up a little bit.
So you have an opportunity to go back to you from 2018 when you just got your license, and you get to talk to you on day one. What is your advice to freshman year, day one you, as you're getting into real estate?
Oh man. Take advantage of all the training and all of the opportunities, I would say, because for my first couple of years, I didn't do that. I learned a lot. But I was kind of in like a little bit of a box. And now that I'm able to take advantage of all the learning opportunities, my world's just expanded, and I'm being able to be of better service to other people. And I love helping other agents too. And so that's a big part of it for me. So I would just say, learn as much as you can, take advantage of all the coaching, the classes, everything.
That's awesome. I think Kat jumped in the chat and she said it was a blueberry bundt cake. And
yes.
It says still warm, so I don't know if she's trying to tell us that it is still warm. She made more and it's warm, or it was warm then. Doesn't matter. You have an inordinate amount of baked goods at your office, which I adore. So one last thing real quick. When are you ladies going to be snipping that ribbon? Like, is there a loose and flowing time frame that we think there's going to be a grand opening?
Well, I don't know if they have the date set yet,
Sure.
But people are over there working day in and day out. So I don't think that it will be long. And everyone will definitely get an invitation and a heads up.
And there'll be bundt cake. Very excited.
There will be lots of cakes.
There'll be lots of cakes. There'll be lots of cakes. That's awesome. Really appreciate your time, Shannon. Thank you so much for joining us. And reminder for everybody. So if you had a chance to get new business, repeat business, or referral business, which one would you take?
Word of client referrals.
Yeah. Well, yes, I was going to say all of them. You'd take all of them, of course. But so for referrals' sake, do you want to give out your contact information so people have it if they want to scribble it down because they finally met you and they can't wait to be in business with you? Referrals to Shannon, where do I call?
Yeah, 603-630-3343.
Okay, and then your email is?
It's ShannonCaseyRealtor@gmail.com.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us. Bradley Kelly, thank you for joining us. If you're heading to the decks in Portsmouth in the next hour or so, Brad's toes are out. I'm just going to warn you. He's in flip-flops. So if you're having a lobster roll, don't look down. That's all. That's all.
I don't know. Are the decks even open yet? I'm not even sure.
I heard from a little birdie that the decks are open this weekend. Yes. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It wouldn't be a fool's errand to get down there and be like, oh, they're not open. Now I have to drink inside. I'm sure you'll figure it out, Brad. I'm sure you'll manage. Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Have a great weekend.
Tim.
Bye.